going on, guys? I hope that you're all having a wonderful day today. For those of you that are new to the channel, my name is Ty, and today in this video, we're going to be talking about Wicked, the brand new film that just came out based off the Broadway musical. Now listen, guys, just to give you guys a little bit of background on my own personal experience with Wicked, when I was a kid, I watched the original Wizard of Oz, and honestly, haven't seen that movie in about 15 years. From there, I've never seen the Broadway play, and I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't even know what it was about. Really enjoyed the trailers, though, leading up to it, especially because I feel like over the past year or 2 years, I've really grown fond of musicals. I just watched The Sound of Music for the first time 2 weeks ago. I fell in love with it. La La Land, one of my favorite movies of all time. But the question begs, did this movie actually live up to the hype that I had for it, or did it utterly disappoint? Let's just get right into it. I just want to cut to the chase. This musical is absolutely phenomenal. Now listen, don't get me wrong, it's technically on paper not a complete musical because this is only part one. Next year, I believe in a year, in November 2025, part two comes out. But as a part one, this is a phenomenal standalone movie, and again, like I already said, musical. Oh my god, within the first 10 minutes, like I said, since I didn't really know, I kind of pieced together, oh, this is going to be a prequel, which I know is probably pretty funny to some of you if you're a diehard fan, you know every single word to every song. I've only heard popular. Besides that, again, I really didn't know anything about this, but I fell in love with the characters. I was emotionally attached. The songs gripped me. All the big sets and designs, just phenomenal, amazing on every single level. But listen, I'm done dilly-dallying here, okay? I could see why this was the Avengers Endgame for theater kids. I can understand why people would want to be yelling and screaming and singing in theaters. I don't even really know where to start, but I guess I could just talk about the film as a whole because I've got to say, it just feels so epic and grand and vast on a world-building level. All of the sets are practical. There is CGI that's used for some creatures and stuff, but it looks amazing. It looks flawless. There isn't a CGI shot in this entire film that looked off to me. And honestly, I can nitpick CGI. I tend to do that, honestly. But I didn't see one shot where I was like, that looks kind of bad. The animals, the fur, and the way that their faces move. It's crazy, especially because some of them are talking. The franchise that I could basically mirror this off of is Harry Potter, which is basically my favorite franchise. Because of the fact, and again, I didn't know this beforehand, it takes place at a school, and there's magic involved, and there's students, and, there's some similarities. There's talking animals. They kind of mirror each other in certain ways. And I've got to say, the world building and the way that it's able to grip you and just pull you into this movie for 2 hours and 40 minutes because the runtime, while it is very long, it keeps your attention the entire way. I don't think there's a wasted second on screen. Don't get me wrong, it has its faster moments and it has its slower moments, but you're just completely immersed throughout this entire film. It's incredible. Our main two characters, Glinda and Elphaba, are very complex and layered, and the way that they play off of each other is great. Ariana Grande, as great as Cynthia Erivo is, because oh my god, she's phenomenal, Ariana Grande is going for that Oscar, and I never thought that I would have been saying that beforehand. I don't know if it's technically going to be lead actress or supporting actress. Either way, it feels like she's a lock for a nomination, because from a singing perspective, obviously we know she has the pipes, right? But then when you talk about her acting and you take away the emotional scenes from this film, what you're left with is just some phenomenal acting on display here. Amazing, powerful moments that, again, when they're playing off of each other, are great. They're her naive energy that, Glinda has. And again, if you've watched the play, I'm sure that you know this, but I didn't, is great. She's very funny. Her comedic timing's awesome. Even the side characters are very entertaining. You've got Jonathan Bailey in here. His singing was great. You've also got Michelle Yeoh and Jeff Goldblum. They're great actors, but don't get me wrong, their singing wasn't exactly great. I guess you could say that was maybe a bit of a gripe of mine, but at the same time, I can't complain. They had little singing moments. They were great when they were acting, but the story really pulled me in right from the jump. I mean, the first musical set piece that we had, I was like, oh, this is what we're doing. We're, again, like I already mentioned earlier in the video, going back in time and seeing how Glinda and the witch actually knew each other, and that's very interesting. There's a subplot in here as well that I found very intriguing that's probably going to get followed up in part two because it wasn't fully completed in regards to animals, and I was pretty intrigued, especially because it was dealing with some conspiracy and some corruption going on, because something a little suspicious is happening within the world of Oz, I guess you could say. But yeah, I've got to say, man, just top to bottom, fantastic. Now listen, let me just throw in some negatives here, okay? First negative, and again, I know that everything that I can either praise or critique about this can be said for the musical, but I haven't seen the musical, so I'm just talking about the film. It can be a bit predictable, which I don't really have like a huge problem with. I'm kind of just throwing it out there. That's okay though. I kind of like saw where things were going, maybe halfway through or even like a third of the way through the movie, but it's fine. That's not like a huge, problem that I really have with the film that bothered me. I feel like I barely even have problems with this film, honestly, so in a way, these are almost just nitpicks. Some of the lighting, especially the backlighting, I saw people were like complaining on Twitter about it. It's really not that bad, but maybe in just like a scene or like 30-second spurts, it can be a little off-putting because you can barely see the characters' faces, but either way, a lot of really great set pieces here. And again, going back to all the production design, the costumes, and the way that everything was actually built, there's actually such a little amount of CGI in here. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure that the backgrounds are CGI, but when you're watching our characters just walk through, it's essentially like towns and like this university. We're going to different places like cities. It's incredible. The spectacle is just so large. The musical sequences, oh my god. While every single song I didn't think was phenomenal and just absolutely amazing over the top, I still think that the sequences were choreographed so well. The movements were so swift, they're like dancing, they're moving their arms and stuff. So it wasn't even just dancing, it was even just the way that they're moving their bodies, which I know that's kind of dancing, but again, like I said, very swift, very quick, and especially because you've got a lot of extras in these scenes. These scenes, there's like 100 or 200 people in a room, and the camera is not afraid to show what's going on. It's not like, we're only on Ariana Grande, we're only on Cynthia Erivo or Jonathan Bailey, who was really good in his one dance number that was like more focused on him. If you watch the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. But I've got to say, the camera's pulled back and you're watching all of these people. And listen, I can't exactly confirm this, but when it comes to all of the extras, I'm sure that they went out and got like the biggest theater kids in the world because, sometimes when they're showing these big scenes, I found myself like looking at some like the background dancers and stuff. It looked like they were trying their asses off. Like they were putting their full effort into this, and I can understand because this seems like it's pretty much the Super Bowl if you're a theater kid. And I'm not like dunking on theater kids. I'm really happy for you guys because this was awesome and I had such a great time with it. But I'm just saying, I loved the way that it felt like everyone was so into this. Speaking of being into this, I know that Jon Chu directed this, and it feels like this was the film that he wanted to direct. You can kind of just feel the energy throughout the film. This feels like what they were trying to make. Every little decision is so concise. Every design, again, like I already mentioned, every costume, every dance number, the way the camera moves in some sequences, the way that it's edited to where we have some like split screens and we're seeing different characters in different locations. It's really awesome. It doesn't drag in the slightest. Again, 2 hours and 40 minutes for a musical, that might throw some people off. But also, one of the greatest musicals of all time that I mentioned earlier in this video, The Sound of Music, that's a 3-hour-long film. So clearly it works. This is only a part 1. Again, I don't think it suffers from part 1 syndrome. It finishes off perfectly in the sense that it's its own independent story while still making me beg for more because I'm very excited for part 2 now. Don't get me wrong, in a way, and it's because I haven't seen the play, I don't know where this goes, I kind of have no idea where we're going with part 2. Like, they didn't really leave too many threads, but I think that they cut off at a nice break point to, again, where, honestly, I almost wish we knew a little bit more as to where this was going, because in a way, I feel like the movie could have ended here without a part 2, and again, I know there is a part 2, but there were a few things, again, with like the animals that were hinted, with some of the other side characters, that I am excited to see followed up on, but again, I guess that's what it should do, right? So maybe I'm wrong for that. It should leave me guessing, but man, I had an absolutely phenomenal time with this. But listen, what is my final verdict for Wicked, the movie that I didn't really have too many expectations for because I didn't really think it was for me, but I fell in love with. I think at the end of the day, I'm going to settle for a 4 out of 5 stars. Now listen, I know that I was praising this movie like crazy, but this is going to be a very, very high 4. Like, this is probably a top 5 film of the year for me. The energy in here is just so great. You love all these characters. You fall in love with them, I should say. The set design, it's so fun and energetic to look at. Jonathan Bailey brings this extra edge with his swagger, and oh my god, the only thing I could say, it's so hard not to say this when I see a good movie, is that this film just has the sauce. They were just cooking here, and this was exactly the dish that they wanted to serve. If you guys like musicals, go check this out right now. Or honestly, I should say don't check it out till next year because you're going to be dying to see the second part. Highly recommend it. Guys, that's just going to be about it for this review. Thank you so much for watching this video. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.